What's good, peeps? Thanks always for passing by the channel, much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. Fingers crossed this mic works. Fingers crossed it does its job, because I am very, very high up and it is pretty windy where I am, but I wanted you guys to get this backdrop. I think it's a beautiful backdrop of Havana in Cuba. I am here, I've been here for 5 days. I am back to London in a couple of weeks' time. A few people have asked me when I'm back. So you will see the famous, and it is a famous green chair in a couple of weeks' time. So much has happened in the world of boxing since I last filmed. Obviously, the Errol Spence car crash. I think we all got news of that today. Prayers up for Errol Spence. We're here and it's not life-threatening, but it is serious. I guess boxing gets put to the side, right? A lot of people have asked, will he box again? I guess in these kind of times, I just hope that he's fully healthy again, right? Boxing almost is secondary, but fingers crossed he makes a speedy recovery. Dillian Whyte resurfaced. I don't know if you guys saw the video of IFL TV. I'm sure you have. I think it's got like 400,000 views. Obviously, he mentioned that he will fight in December. And he also said something about hardcore boxing fans. So we're going to talk about that in a separate video. And also Billy Joe Saunders, his opponent has been announced for the undercard of KSI versus Logan Paul. We're going to talk about that opponent because I am just not happy, if I'm honest with you. I keep hearing that Billy Joe Saunders is the best, I don't know, 160 pounder, 168 pounder. I mean, his level of opponents needs to be talked about. It's embarrassing, if I'm honest with you, embarrassing. His last two opponents show Shefat Asifu and the other guy I've never heard of in my life. Never heard of, and I'm a boxing guy. Never heard of them in my life. And I think that's just not acceptable for a 2-weight world champion. It's that simple. But let's talk about another world champion, a guy that I think put on potentially, or two guys, sorry, put on potentially fight of the year last week. It's strange because we were saying Errol Spence versus Sean Porter was, I think this exceeded it, right? And I think credit has to go to Derevchenko. Almost like the Errol Spence Sean Porter fight, the underdog had to turn that into a fight of the year candidate. And Derevchenko was an underdog, not as big as an underdog, I don't think, as Sean Porter, but he was an underdog nonetheless. And I thought he put on a fantastic performance. I do think it's good sometimes to film 4 or 5 days after the event. The sun is just starting to set. Hopefully you guys can still see me. I do think it's good to film 4 or 5 days after the event. You get to almost take a breather. A lot of people are saying things like GGG should retire. I don't see how or why. I tweeted that it's painful to see your favorite fighter take a backward step. It's painful to see your favorite fighter slip and lose a bit, and GGG has definitely lost a bit. I've been a massive GGG fan for years, and obviously he's no longer that guy that ran through the likes of Matthew Macklin, Rosado, Curtis Stevens, Martin Murray. He's obviously not that guy anymore. But in Derevchenko, he beat a guy that I think was a top 5 middleweight. And I said this, I said prior to the video, Derevchenko's a top 5 middleweight, and GGG I think beat him by a couple of rounds. That's not a guy that should call it quits. That's a guy that, well, I say he should change his style. I mean, that's what he brought Jonathan Banks in. Jonathan Banks has been brought in to add a bit of movement to GGG. And I don't see any difference between the GGG of Abel Sanchez and the GGG of Jonathan Banks. I know it's only been 2 fight camps, and I sometimes feel like a trainer-student relationship won't work until 3 or 4 fight camps, but GGG does not have 3 or 4 fight camps. He is there for the taking now. So we need to see changes, and we need to see changes now, and I haven't seen anything. GGG's always been a fighter, and as good as he is, and he's an elite fighter, but he's always been a fighter that for him to land his blows, he has to almost get caught with a couple as well, right? Every single fight that GGG has won, even those ones where he's been destructive, you've been able to hit him. Whereas before, those punches would just bounce off. Now they're taking effect, right? They're taking effect. We saw it against Danny Jacobs. We saw it against 2 fights with Canelo. And now we see it with Derevchenko. And there's not long left. There's not long left. He's 37. He's had a massive amateur career. What was it? 360, 370 fights as an amateur. Over 40 fights as a pro. Trying to make weight all the time. There's not much left in GGG. And it is sad, but I think we should give Derevchenko credit as well. I think Derevchenko put on a fantastic performance. You could be forgiven for thinking that it was going to be an early GGG night, right? I mean, you put Derevchenko down early and you thought that was that. Derevchenko showed exactly what he showed against Danny Jacobs, that it takes a lot more than that to get rid of him. Against Danny Jacobs, he got up and nearly won that fight, and against GGG, he done exactly the same thing. He had GGG hurt. I've never seen GGG hurt as much in that fight as I've seen him in his whole career. He had GGG out of there at one stage, and that shocked the fuck out of me. So credit to Derevchenko. What next for GGG? I don't know. People are talking about Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders, people, has been fighting in the minor leagues, to use an American phrase. He's done well in the minor leagues. Why people think that Billy Joe Saunders can somehow just go to the major leagues and cause problems, I don't know. I really don't know. Derevchenko, we saw what he could do against Danny Jacobs. We've seen Billy Joe Saunders in with nobody. Don't say David Lemieux, don't say Andy Lee, don't say Chris Eubank Jr., nobody. So I don't know if he's the man to get rid of GGG, I really don't. At this stage of GGG's career, it's not a mover like Andrade and Billy Joe Saunders that's going to cause him problems. It's a puncher, an out-and-out puncher. And I think in Derevchenko, Canelo, and Jacobs, he's probably taken on or faced the biggest punches at 160. I don't think Charlo hits that hard. Billy Joe Saunders definitely don't hit that hard, and nor does Andrade. So I don't think a move is going to cause him problems or keep him up at night. I think it's a puncher. And I don't think there are any big punches now in the 160 division. So I'm not sure if it's Billy Joe Saunders. I think there was a poll a few days ago and Billy Joe Saunders was top of that poll. So that could be the fight for Gennady Golovkin next. They're both signed with DAZN, so it shouldn't be a problem to make. As for the Canelo trilogy, people just don't want to see it anymore. Again, that poll that had Billy Joe Saunders winning, I think Canelo was the last name on it, right? I think it was Billy Joe Saunders, Demetrius Andrade, Derevchenko rematch. I think even Charlo, then Canelo. So I don't think he gets the Canelo fight again. I'd be shocked, and I said this before, I'd be shocked if Canelo comes back down to 160. So I don't think he gets the Canelo fight again. The only way I see him fighting Canelo is if Canelo beats Kovalev, which he's favourite to do, and then GGG goes up to 175 and challenges him. That's the only way I see it happening. And I don't see a problem with that at all. I think GGG is struggling at 160. He looks awful on the scales. The body punches are starting to take effect, and that is a side of cutting weight. I would like to see him go to 168 or 175, and Canelo versus GGG at 175 could be a big money fight for DAZN. So that could possibly happen. But yeah, the end is nigh. The end is nigh, people. So let's appreciate him while he's here. There's a couple more fights left, I think. I think his contract with DAZN was only like a 4 or 5 fight contract, wasn't it? I think his contract with DAZN was only like a 5 fight contract. He's had 2 of them. I think it's a fair assessment to say the last 3 fights will be his last 3 fights. So let's enjoy Golovkin more. Let's enjoy the backdrop. Peace.